Hey everybody, Chris Stayte here. Today I'm going to show you guys how to build a site using a static site generator. Let's jump into the video. Alright, so you can see on my screen here I have Hugo's website up here. It's just Hugo, which is our static site generator. And today I'm going to show you guys how to install Hugo, how to use Hugo, and how we're going to build a site using Hugo. Now there's a couple of things you're going to have. Before we start, you're going to have Git installed on your machine, and you're going to have some sort of package manager, such as Brew for Mac OS and Chocolatey for Windows. You can see here I have Hugo pulled up here. Now I'm going to show you guys how to install this. I already have it installed, but I'll show you the process on how to do it, and it's going to be exactly the same. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Terminal. I'll bring Terminal in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Hugo's website, and I'm a big pusher of learning things by reading documentation. And this is actually how I learned how to make all my websites that I've built using Hugo straight through Hugo's documentation. So I'm going to click on Docs up here, and you can see on the left-hand side there's a Getting Started guide, and I'm going to click on Install Hugo. You can see it's available here on Mac, Windows, Linux, FreeBSD, basically any machine that can run the Go compiler. Hugo was built using the language Go. You're not really required to know how to use the language or understand the syntax. Just know that the Go compiler is used to build this website. You don't need to install Go on your machine. It's already ready to go through Hugo. Now we're going to scroll on down here, down to the Mac OS install settings. You can see I'm running Mac, so I'm going to use that. If you're using Windows, use the Chocolatey Windows settings, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this. I'm going to copy this command, so you can just go ahead and click copy right there. It shows that it's copied, and I'm going to go over here to Terminal, and I'm just going to paste that in there. Now when I go to do it on my time, since I already have it installed, it's going to give me a warning and say, hey, it's already installed. If you don't have it installed, it's going to go ahead and install it for you. You can see the latest version as of this video is version 0.37.1. If you do end up watching this video in the future, or this isn't the latest version, you can always do brew upgrade Hugo, and what that will do is that will actually it'll find the latest version and update it to the latest version. There is one thing that I do say when it comes to using Brew on Mac when you're installing Hugo is that you might be a few days late on new versions. So when they update Hugo on the binaries, basically on GitHub, when they post the data on GitHub and they have the binaries there, it takes it just about a day for it to actually go ahead and get pushed to Brew's repository, because it is a separate repository, so somebody actually has to go in and upload that. But I've never had an issue with that unless you have to be on the latest version and your website isn't working, right? So now that we've got it installed, let's go ahead and check if it actually is actually installed. So let's type in Hugo in Terminal, Hugo version. And if we did this right and it's installed right, you should see what version it's on. You can see here Hugo Static Site Generator is at version 0.37.1. So it looks like everything's good. I'm going to hit Command K in Terminal to clear it out. And we're ready to move on to the next part. And the next part is actually starting a Hugo project. So let's go ahead and get into that. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to start Hugo project here. So I'm just going to start this on my desktop. You can see inside Terminal on the right-hand side that I'm only in my users folder. So I'm going to change directory to my desktop. I do use a lot of Terminal or command prompt in my development videos. This is because a lot of programming and development world is wrapped around this. So if you need to learn how to do this, I'll try to come up sometime with some tutorials on how to use these software. But for the time being, we're going to be using Terminal for a lot of this. So please feel familiar and feel free to pause the video to find the codes and all that, right? So now we're going to actually start a project. So I'm on my desktop, and to start a project, you're actually going to type in Hugo new site, and you're going to put a space in between all of that. And then what we're going to do here is then type in the name of our site. I'm going to call this my site. So next what we're going to be doing is, now that we've got this site generated, I'm just going to bring it here on the desktop. You can see the folder here. It's called my site. And if you open it up, boom, you can see all this content inside of here, right? And now I want to show you guys one more thing before we move on to building the rest of our website. I want to show you guys how to view this site locally, how to get it running locally, and start a development server locally so you can see it as you build it. So back here in Terminal, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this. We're going to click on Terminal. We're actually going to type in Hugo server, right? But that's not going to work. Why? Well, I haven't actually gone into my Hugo. My Hugo site right here called my site. So we're going to change directory to my site. I'm going to type in Hugo server. Now what that does is it actually starts us a local development server on your machine, and it creates it on localhost using port number 1313. So if you go to your browser and you type in localhost 1313, you actually get a blank page. Now why is this? And this is because there's no content in your website. So yes, a server is running, but because we have no content, there's nothing going to show up. So before we go ahead and add content, I think it's very important that we pick a theme. So I'm going to go ahead into the next section of this video, and we're going to go ahead and pick and implement a theme. All right, so the next part of our video here is I want to talk about themes. I'm going to go ahead on this terminal. I'm going to kill that development server that we had just talked about by hitting Control-C. Now that development server is done, I'm going to clear out my terminal. And we're going to go on to Go Hugo's website, and we're going to click on Themes right here. Now, when you click on Themes, there's actually, I think, hundreds of themes here that you can choose from. They're all free. They're all open source. You can see the source code for all of them. But we're going to go ahead and I have a favorite that I've been using for my website, my personal blog website. I'm going to hit Control F or Command F and hit Find, and it's actually called Casper 2. Casper 2 is awesome. There's typically you can download it, so you can download the binaries, or you can view the demo here. If you click on the demo, you can see right here that this is kind of what the site looks like. And you can actually, if you go to my personal blog website, blog.chrisstayte.com, you can see that my website is actually made using this theme. So it's really awesome. It looks beautiful. I can embed videos. I can add links. It's amazing. It's a great theme. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go back to Go Hugo's website on that theme page, and we're going to actually install this theme. So you can see that in Terminal on the right-hand side that I'm still inside my site folder, and we're going to scroll down here, and they have an installation guide. And so they say that you need to change directory to that themes folder. So I'm going to say change directory themes. And then you need to run this git command, which actually takes a Git repository off of GitHub and it clones it to your local machine. Now you can see that it did clone it, and if I go into that folder of my site and I go into themes, you can see there's a Casper 2 folder. And inside there's a couple of things actually. The first thing here is that we have an example site. You can see that's great. You can see that they actually have a pre-built site. It's the same one that when you click on the website, it's the same one that when you click demo, that's that same exact site. So you can see all of the code they use to design that website. They also have images, layouts, archetypes. They have their license, a README, and static files. All of this stuff is used for your theme, and you shouldn't have to go in here much at all unless you're looking for examples. But most of this is going to be static as far as you're not going to be touching it. And when there is an update to the theme, they'll push that through GitHub, and you can run a git command to download that. Now, for instance, if you love everything about the theme but one thing, you are able to change some of this code. Just make sure you read that license file to make sure that they're going to allow you to do that. You can see that this theme in particular is an MIT license. What that means is that it's free for any use, but the person who created the theme is not liable for any things that you do with the theme if you get into trouble with that. I wouldn't see that as a big problem, but that's just what that is. Now I'm going to close out of this folder, and we're going to go on to how to implement this theme by setting up a configuration file. We have this theme installed, and I'll show you that. We'll go into Hugo server inside of terminal. We'll go back to that localhost 1313. Oh, look at that, a problem. It isn't running the Hugo server because I'm still inside the themes folder. So we're going to back out by doing CD and then 2 periods. And then we should be able to run Hugo server. And you can see right there, boom, it's running. And if I reload this web page, you can see that the theme is running already. But why isn't this working? Why isn't this showing up? Well, check out the next section and I'll tell you why. All right, hey, so we're in the next section here. I'm going to show you guys how we set up the configuration file and why our theme isn't showing up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kill this server. I'm going to hit Control-C, and I'm going to clear out my terminal to make it look nice and pretty. And I'm actually going to open up Visual Studio Code to edit all my files. So I'm going to type in code space dot. And that actually pulls open Visual Studio Code. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here to make that full screen for now. And we're going to click on config.toml. This is the configuration for your entire website. And this is very important. Every theme has their own set of rules when it comes to configuration file. If you're building your own theme, you can make your own rules. But if you're using a theme that somebody else has built, you need to adhere to how they set up their things. So I'll put this here on the left-hand side. I'll make it a little bit smaller. And then I'll put this web page over here on the right-hand side. Let's put that right about there. And I'll scoot this in. All right, so you can see if you scroll down on this themes page, they have that installation guide, and then they have a sample configuration file. We're just going to copy and paste everything out of here, and then we're going to go through it and we're going to edit it to how we like it. So I'm going to copy all of that, and I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to save that. Now, if we go back to terminal, right, and then we type in Hugo server, and now it's actually running on that same port. So we type in localhost 1313. Wow, look at that. Our theme's already running. And is it really what we want? No, but it's already running. Isn't that amazing? So that just by doing that, just by adding that configuration file, it actually told Hugo using this that we're going to be using this Casper 2 theme. And then it knew to go into the themes folder and pull that theme out of there. So let's go through this one by one and actually set up our server or our site, right? So the base URL is the URL that your website goes to. We're going to type in HTTPS because we're going to be using a secure connection later on. And this is going to be called, mine's going to be called example.chrisstayte.com. And you can see right here that that's going to be the base URL. And you can see we have a theme, a language code, and then disk is short name. We're going to get into that in a later video, but just remember that this is going to be used for commenting. So you can add commenting to your website. It's awesome. Now the title of your website is right here. I'm just going to change this to example site. And the subtitle, I'm just going to say my awesome site, right? Now you can see on here, there's a cover, and we'll talk about the cover. The cover is basically this black area, so you can change that. The description right here is the description of your site. I'm going to put in Chris Stayte's awesome example site. And then there's meta description. That's what shows up on Google and search engines. You can see right here I have Google Analytics. We'll get into that in that later video. You can set up custom CSS, and you can set up your own custom RSS link. They also have the options to add your Twitter, Facebook, and GitHub. I'm just going to add those real quick, so that way I can show you how those work. My Twitter is Chris Stayte, my Facebook is Chris T Stayte, and my GitHub name is Chris Stayte. So now you can see on this example site over here, if you click on the GitHub link, it will open up a new tab straight to my GitHub. That's awesome because a lot of times when people go to your website, it's nice to have those links and those social media links for people to click on. Then the next thing you can see in the configuration file is that it's set up to look at this Hugo logo. Now, where is that located at? Is it in the static folder? No. Well, if you go into themes and then you go into static, you can see right here there's actually a file named hugologo.png. And we'll go into how Hugo basically builds the site here in a second. But basically, the gist of it is that when it builds your site, it combines the themes data with your data. And so you can see that it's actually got that in there. To remove that, the fastest way, instead of deleting that file and editing that theme, because if we just delete the file when we update the theme or we pull from the Git repository, it'll just put it back. We can just erase that out of our configuration file. And right there, instead of an image, it puts our title of our website, which is example site. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to author. I skipped this organization name. You can do this. This is just defaulted to the maker of the theme, but you can do that on your own time. I'm going to show you the author. I'm going to put CS for my name. I'm going to put profile picture. Profile-picture.png. I'm going to be using a JPEG. I'll show you guys that photo here in a bit. JPG. And I'm going to change the location. So that shows my location. Dayton. I got to learn how to type. Ohio. And we'll just change this to my website. I will put blog.chrisstayte.com. All right. And then as a description, I'll just put I'm a coder, right? I'm a developer. And that's about it for the main setup of that. You can see that you can change it between Casper and Casper 2 when it comes to viewing. That deals with the old version, which is Casper 1, and the new version, which is Casper 2. You can just change that between the two and see which one you like more. Now down here is kind of the top portion of it. This is your menus, your settings and all that. You can see here on the main website, you have home, go, food, and external. Let's go ahead and change some of those to see how that works. So right here on home, you can see if we change this, I'll make Visual Studio Code a little bit smaller and we'll minimize this folder. If we change this home to main, because I like using main, so main, it actually changes that live. And that's the great thing about running this server is that when you save your files, any file in here, it's going to automatically refresh and update that website, which is great. Now the next thing I'm going to do is instead of having a go, I'm actually going to put an area called projects, right? Because I want to display my projects. And when it comes to Hugo, you have two things. You have tags and you have categories, and you can use those to your advantage, and we'll figure out which ones are better and why you'd want to use them. But for now, we're going to leave these tags as project. And we're going to leave the second category, which I can put maybe, my life, because I want to show people about my life, things I do. And we'll put the categories as life, right? And then there's also this third option down here, which is going to an external site. So they have it defaulted here to go to Google. So now you can see that all these have been changed. And if I actually click on this top bar and I click on Google, it'll actually open up Google, which is awesome. So you have a lot of customization, a lot of difference in all of this stuff. Now that's our configuration. We're going to come back in here and we're going to change some more. We're going to change some more things, but we really need to get to building content before we want to change some of those things and customize them. So in the next section that you're going to watch, I'll show you guys how to add content. All right, hey guys, I'm going to show you guys how to add some content to the website. This is one of my favorite parts because adding content is what really makes your website your website. It's what shows people what you have to offer and what really you want to show them, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to add content, and the first thing to do here is, and the easiest thing is to go into your terminal. Now you can see that it is actively building and rendering my website on a server, and I kind of want to leave that there. I kind of want to leave that running. So if I hit Command-T inside of terminal, it'll actually open up a new terminal at that same exact folder structure, right? At the same exact My Site. But then it'll leave the other tab running in the background. So we can leave that running. And right here, the way to do this is you actually type in Hugo new, and then we're going to type in post, and then /, and then I'm going to type in the name of my post, which we're going to do my first post. And then what you actually need to do is add the file extension, which is .md, and this is going to be a markup file. We'll talk more about what markup files are here in a bit, but for now, just create this and we'll work through getting this done. So what we do is we go back over into the My Site folder structure, and you can see there's a content, and everything that you create as far as content for your website goes inside there. And you can see that right there, there's a post folder. Now, the reason why we created a post folder and why we're putting our content in there is because the setting on this theme is actually telling us that it's going to look inside post, and we can find that inside config. And down here, you can see it's looking for it in this post folder. This is very unique to this theme. A lot of themes don't require that or might have a different requirement. You can kind of play around and look at some of the default settings. A lot of the times what I'll do is I'll go into the themes and I'll go into the example site and I'll look at what they have as far as their config. I'll look at what they have as far as where are they putting their content at, and they put it inside of a post folder. That's very important to me to have that example site right there because I can use that as a reference when building my site, and it's amazing. You don't have to go to a website. You just look inside here and you've got it. So we're going to go back into that first post, and you can see that there's a couple things here. Now, up here, everything in between these three dashes is what we call Frontmatter. And this is what is basically the configuration of this exact post is going to be, right? Exact piece of content. You can see it's set up in value or key value pairs. So you can see here's the key. It says title, and that's going to be the same across all content, but the value is going to be different. And you can see this says title is my first post, and that's what's going to tell the website this is the title of this page. The date is going to say, hey, this is where it should be at. Put this date on there, and that'll actually help with organization. So things with a date in the past will be further in your website, and things with the most recent date will be right there in the front. And then the draft. Now, the draft is awesome because imagine you're writing a page or you're writing a piece of content, but you're not really sure if you're going to want that shown yet. Or you're like, oh, I'm halfway done and I just can't finish it tonight. I need to save it and upload it, but I don't want people to see a half-finished piece of content. Well, what you can do is you can set that draft equal to true, and it won't render on your website. And you can actually see that on our website over here, it's being rendered. It says page 1 out of 0. Now, that's doing that because this draft is set to true. If we were to change this and set this equal to false and save it, you can see that, boom, it re-renders the website. That server re-renders the website, and it actually shows that first post. And look at that. My first post is actually shown up as the title. And if you actually click on the post, you can see the date is right there, and that date matches over here. Now, these aren't the only 3 key value pairs that you're going to use. That depends on your theme and what you want. One of the bigger ones that people use is it's changing that image. You can see that this image right here is kind of a default image, and you can look at those if you go into your themes folder and you go into images, and then you go into static. And right there's a folder called default image. There's 7 images that are defaulting. And what this does is if you don't give your post an image by default, it will actually give you a random number and then put an image in there. And every time your site renders, that image will change. That's just so that way this theme looks good, even if you forget to add an image, but it's always great to add that image. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to go inside of our draft, and right below that, we're going to type in image, and then we're going to type in quotes, because we're going to add an image to this, right? we're gonna add a default image, and I'm gonna show you how to get an image real quick. So we're gonna go to one of my favorite websites to get them. It's called pexels.com. Right here, it's free photos, and we're gonna type in, we're gonna type in a sunny day, and you can see right here. Here's a beautiful. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a nice flower. Right, this is a dandelion, or at least what's going to be a dandelion one day. And you can click on this, and I'm actually going to choose. They give you a couple options to download. There's original, large, medium, and small. And I'm going to choose medium. I'm going to click download. And you might be thinking, like, why are we choosing a medium-sized image? Why not get the full image so people have the best quality? Well, when we talked about the speed of a website, we need to balance both the quality of your content and the speed of it. If I open up my downloads folder here, you can see that if I bring this over into view, you can see that this image right here is 97 kilobytes. I like to keep my images anywhere between anywhere between like 20 to 350 kilobytes. Anything larger than that is just going to take forever to render on your web page. Now, there's things that you can do with existing photographs. Maybe they're a couple megs. I've had photographs that are 20 megs. You can find some tools online that'll compress that, that'll maybe resize that or crop it to get the size that you want. But you want to be in that nice small kilobyte range. That way it loads really fast. Now that we have this, I'm just going to rename this file, and we're going to say, cool photo, right? This is going to be our cool photo. And then I'm going to actually copy all of that text because we're going to use it later on inside of our post. So I'm going to copy this image, and I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to open up my website file structure. And if we go into there, we're going to save all of our photos underneath this static folder, right? And we're going to paste that in there. So we have our cool photo. And then if we go back to our website and we type in the path or a link to that, so I'm just going to type in the name, and we do that. Look at that. Cool photo is set up on my first post. Look at that. We got that beautiful picture. You click on the website. It still looks great. It doesn't look pixelated, and it's ready to go. It's all ready to go, right? Now, why is it picking up that cool photo? Well, on your website, I'm going to minimize this theme. On your website, you can see that we have this static folder, and you can see there's the cool photo. Now, on your website, whenever it renders your website, anything inside static, it's not going to change. It's going to go exactly where it's at. So this is actually going to go in the default root of your website. So it'll go in, my website /coolphoto.jpg. And then your web page is going to look for that same path. So for example, if you wanted to keep it inside, let's create a new folder, and we'll call it uploads, right? Basically where we stick all of our files and folders. And look, it disappeared, but as soon as we open up our image here and we type in uploads, boom, it's back. So you can see that's how you can change that. Now let's talk about real quick, before we add more content to this page, let's talk about these folder structures, right? These folder structures are broken up into these several. Obviously, everyone knows what themes is. That's where your theme goes. The next thing is static, and that's where all your static files go. Those are great. You can upload anything you want and keep it on your website. The next thing here is going to be your layouts. Now layouts, if you go into that themes folder and you click on layouts, this is basically all of your content. Basically, this is the HTML of how your page is laid out, where your content goes. You can see on the index, this is basically where all that content goes. If, for instance, you look inside this partials folder and you can say, oh, look, they broke the footer out. And on the footer of this website, I don't like that there's a latest post here, right? I don't like that that's there. Well, what you can do is you can actually just erase that, right? You just erase that right there. And then when you save, it'll fix it, right? Look, it's gone. But there's a problem with that. A problem that when you update the theme from GitHub, when this folder gets updated from GitHub, because it is a sub module, it's a Git module, it'll actually put that back. And so why do you fix that? Well, what you'll do is you'll actually copy and paste this file into your layouts and match the folder scheme exactly. And then when you render your website, anything that you have will overwrite anything they have. Now that's very powerful because that means that even if they update, you can still maintain the same format that you like. But it's also powerful in the sense that you have to remember that anything you write, anything you do that overwrites theirs can break that website. So for instance, if you write something that changes the website and it's overwriting and then some reason it's not rendering correctly, make sure that you didn't change the wrong thing. But other than that, this overwriting power is really powerful. The next thing we have here is called data. I personally don't use data. It's where you can save things. It's where you can put things. I don't ever use this, but you're almost more than welcome to. A lot of the times you can overwrite things like their default JavaScript or their default CSS if you wanted to change a color on the page, but we'll get into that later. That's not very important right now. I never typically use this. And you can see right here, the last and most important one here is called archetypes. Archetypes here are basically the template of how it creates a new post. So you can see here by default, it'll always create a title, a date, and a draft. But imagine we wanted to create an image every time. We can type an image and then put these quotes here. And then watch this. If we go back into our terminal, right? And then we go over here to the site and we type in Hugo, new post, and then we type in test.md. If we go back into our content over here and we refresh this, you can see that there's a test MD, and look at that. It already has image in there. And so that's really powerful, because if you don't want to spend time writing out all your front matter and doing all your front matter, you don't have to. You can just write it in the archetype and it's set up as a default setting. Now, the last thing that I want to show you guys here when it comes to content is actually adding content. And I'm going to show you guys everything below the front matter here is actually considered markup. And markup is powerful and it's great and it's really easy. And so I'm going to go back over to here and I'm going to type in markup cheat sheet on Google. And you can see right here, I can click on this first link, and right here is a link on GitHub that shows you how to use this. Now, it's very powerful and very easy. For example, if you want to use header 1, if you're familiar with web development, you have 6 headers. If you want to use header 1, you use 1 hashtag sign, right? 1 stamp. And then you type in anything. So I could say, awesome post, right? And we go back to that website and look at this. If you click on the post, look, it rendered it in H1. We can do it for all of them. So let's copy and paste all of this right here, right? Copy, paste all that, and look at this. It has all the headers, all of them built in. So we can erase this, pull that in, and let's go on to the next one. They have things like lists. So let's copy all these lists. Look at this. We're going to copy all this default markup. We're going to save that inside there. And look at that. They have lists. They have unordered lists. Now, the reason why this unordered sublist isn't working is because there actually needs to be a space in between these two. And then let's remove these 2 dots. And look at that. You have an unordered sublist. So look at that. Dots and everything. Looks pretty. So if we close out of all this, I'm going to erase all this content. And you can see this is one of the most powerful things, is that as you're editing over here, you don't need to re-render. You don't need to rebuild. It automatically re-renders that website for you. I love this feature. You can add things like links and images. You can actually add code and syntax highlighting. So if over here I type in my content, let's type in, we're going to use Python, right? Now you don't need to give it a language, but that's just for syntax highlighting. And you can say num1 equals 3, num2 equals 5, and print num1 plus num2, right? And then we give it the 3 dashes like that underneath. And look at this. It automatically adds a little code block. So you can have some code blocks on your website. If, for example, you wanted to show somebody how to code. It's amazing. You don't have to do any hard work. It's automatically done for you. You can add tables. You can add, inline HTML. So for example, if you don't like what's going on there, if you want to add customized HTML, go ahead and paste that in there and it'll actually take that and it'll render it as HTML. Let's go ahead and save this file. And look at that. It added some HTML there. Real easy. This is also great when it comes to embedding videos. So for example, I go to YouTube, right? We go into YouTube and we click on a video, right? So let's just click on, what do we got here? Let's just click on this one right here, Sumo Wrestling with Conan. I'm going to go ahead and pause this, but right here, if you click on share and then you click embed, it's going to give you all this code you can grab. You can grab that code. I'm going to close out of this tab and you just paste it in here. And when you save that and it re-renders it, boom, the video is right there on your website. It's real easy to load. It runs pretty. Look at that. A whole YouTube video right inside your website. So it's very powerful, very easy to use. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge when it comes to building websites. It's all done for you. So now that we got some content in there and you guys understand how to upload content, we're going to move on to our next section, which is finishing up a lot of these configuration settings and all that, and maybe adding an author image, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So let's go on to the next section. So now we're going to go into actually fixing some of our content on our website. The first thing I want to work on is getting this author image to work. I don't want to show that question mark. I kind of want to show myself. So I'm going to open up this file structure here, and I'm going to go inside of my static inside of uploads, and I'm going to drag this profile picture of myself into there. I just named it profile picture _ JPEG. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go into my configuration file on my website, and I'm going to scroll down. And you can see here inside of uploads, I changed this from uploads to the uploads folder and then _ profile picture.jpg. And you can see right here on the website, it already rendered my name, right? So it already rendered my picture on here. So you can see that, Chris Stayte, coder developer, and you can see my image there. I also changed my name from CS to Chris Stayte, so that way you can see my full name when you click on a post. So you can see that it was super easy to add my profile picture. Again, on that photo, you can see right here, it's 601 kilobytes. Now, the reason why I chose this kind of a larger file size, I stay away from that 350, is this was around a 25 megabyte file I took, or a picture I took, and then I compressed it down to 601 kilobytes. And actually what that means is that it's because the website's only going to pull that from one source, it'll pull it in once and then it renders it across the entire website. So that's going to be a cached image. So yeah, I did kind of break that personal rule a little bit, but that's fine. We can go ahead and keep that, and it's going to render across the whole website. The next thing I think we're going to want to fix is this background image up here. It's black. I don't really like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that Pexels site, and we're going to search around for a nice image. So right here you can see on the default ones, oh, I like this. I really like this space one, so let's grab that. All right, so we're going to click on this, and I'm going to choose medium. We're going to click download, and then now we have that downloaded image. And I'm just going to go back into my downloads where it saved that to, and I'm going to rename this image to header. And then I'm going to upload that to our uploads right there. Look at that, changed our header. Now you can see right here on the left-hand side, if we go up here to the top, there's a logo. We don't want to be changing the logo. What we want to be changing is this cover right here. And we're going to change this from blog cover to uploads.header. And I think it's JPEG right there. And you can see, wow, look at that. We already changed the header of our website. And you click on this, or you click on that, and look at that. It's beautiful. It looks amazing to me. But we already changed the header of our website, so it's going to look great. Now, the next thing we want to work on is if you click on these project, my life, and Google obviously loads, but if you click on project, it's going to give us this 404 page error. And the reason is because we're actually, if you look at the configuration, we're actually pointing to look for a tag called project. So inside of our first post, if we go in here and we add a tag, so a key is the tag, and then we add project, right? And then we save it, you can see right here on the website, if you click on project, it's not going to find it. And that's because I'm going to re-render this website. So hit Control C and hit server. And we're just going to re-render this website. So reload and click on that. And you can see there's no tags yet. So let's figure out why this isn't working. The first thing I would do is make sure it's not tag and maybe tags. And let's see if that works. No, that's not working. So let's go into the themes. I'm going to go inside of example site, click on content, look at their posts, and see if they've used tags before. So they're not using any tags there. They're not really using any tags there. All right, so let's see. We have tags right here. So they're using tags, and they're actually using these square brackets, and that means that it's a list. So we're going to go back into ours, and we're going to add this to a square bracket. And we save, and look at that. Right on our website, boom. I showed you that now it's adding a tags, and if you click on project, it won't re-render right now. Let's go ahead and re-render this server. We're going to re-render the site. And then we go into project, and look at that. Now we have that working. Now, why am I going back and killing this and re-rendering it? That's because some of the times when you're adding whole entire new sections to your website, you need to start from fresh. What you can do is you can actually do disable fast render, and fast render actually will only build what you changed, but sometimes what you changed affects a lot of other parts of your site. So if you disable fast render, it'll take a little bit longer to render your website, especially if it's tons and tons of content. But the nice thing about that is you won't have to actually kill the server and restart the server. The other thing we have is a category, and it's called My Life. And you can see that if we go into the configuration file, the categories is a life. So if we add a category right here, so categories, and then we add a value, and we're actually going to use square brackets because something can be more than one category, and this is a list, and we're going to call it life, and then we're going to refresh. And then I'm going to click on My Life. And you can see, again, it's broken, and we're going to go back into that terminal. We're going to kill it. We're going to restart the server. And we're going to click My Life. And look at that. Now we have a category that represents life, and only posts that are underneath that category will show up. So we've worked with main, which shows the most recent. We have projects, which shows just things with the project tag, and My Life that has that. So you can see right there, we have a beautiful interface for adding content, changing images, and we made a pretty awesome looking site in less than an hour. I think it's amazing. So we're going to go on to the next video when we talk about hosting. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a long one. I know it was kind of boring maybe at some times, but I think it's really important to figure out how to build a site using Hugo. This is just scratching the surface of what you can do with Hugo. You can do tons and tons of things. You can actually design your whole theme by yourself if you want to have your own customized theme. But please, if you like this video, leave a like down below. Please put your comments down below. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, and I'll be sure to get back to all that I can. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.